Right. So in this part, we are going to look at how you can actually use the browser itself when you are going to create. And that's what we are going to look at as the first part. For that, it uses something called window object, and then we can make use of the window object to interact. Now, for example, few things we can do. We can handle the events using event. You can look for the history information. You can, read and write, address information in the address bar. You can get what we call the status in the status bar. We can use alert. Alert, I think we have discussed last time as well. Basically displaying a box, and then you have OK. You can close. You might have noticed that sometimes you open up a window, and when you move on, you can automatically close. So that also can do. Then you can use a confirm. Again, a dialog box which you can use to use OK and cancel. And then focus on, we call focus. So those are like some of the methods that we can actually use through the browser. So that you can notice now, browser interaction is very important, especially nowadays. We even use JavaScript to build web applications. And this is actually core part. And understanding how you can do is also very important. The second one, the events. That means we can perform various different actions, and then JavaScript actually detect those. Now, for example, you can click a button. So if you want to do something with when user clicking a button, actually this is what we need to understand. So that means when you perform a particular event action, that particular event, that action can be detected by the JavaScript. So for example, when the page loads, you click, right? You click on a button, you click on an image, you even click on the page itself, then you can do. The next thing is, if you go from one place and then you move around, like you move the mouse, and even we say lost focus, we say that you are going from one element to the other element. So I will show you like some of the examples with this right after finishing this one. So there are many events like this. These are called event handlers, and we are going to look at like 3 ways of how we can handle events in JavaScript. So on blur, meaning like you are in a particular location and then you are going to move away. This is very common one. Meaning like, let's say we have a text box, and you type something and then you go to the next text box. So that means you are going from one text box to the other one. You are moving away. So that is called the loses the focus. So as soon as when you are moving in, the JavaScript detects that. Similar that when you change something, meaning like, let's say you have typed something and you are changing, and as soon as you try to change, you can detect it. Clicking on something. Actually, you can notice how the naming has done. So you can see on is there. So for example, click is the event that you want to detect. Event handler is named as on click. If there are error in the loading or the image, we call on error, on focus. Even the key presses you can identify. You can notice here, when you press the key down, right? The key on the keyboard is pressed. Key press and held down, and then key up. That means you release it. Right? Similarly, a page or image finish loading. Remember, it takes some time. You read an image or read a page, it takes some time. If you want to do something after, as soon as it actually finish loading, okay, you have to use on load. Likewise, there are some mouse events as well. Mouse button press, mouse is moved, mouse leaves element, mouse moves over the element, mouse button is released, and so on. And Finally, on submit, right? So what I want to highlight is, so in JavaScripts, you can detect events. So this is the interesting part when you want to build some applications or when you work with the web pages. This is how we can actually provide the interactivity to the web page, right? So as I told you earlier, we discussed that these are the events and there are three ways of handling those events, right? So how are you going to handle the events? There are, you can use it as a HTML attribute. Then you can create a method with the element and you can use add event listener. So let me explain these three, and then I will also explain with I also explain with some practicals like implementations. Okay, we'll start with the first one, right? Ideally, in this particular case, you use it as an attribute. We discussed this. This is HTML. We have a body. Remember the main core, we have body. Within that, we will include a on click as an attribute. So it's the event, right? On click means when you click it. Okay. And what this part means is execute this function. So we can write down a simple function. And whenever you click on the uh, body of the page, then you can execute whatever the instruction you have given inside the my function, right? So let's set it up and then we'll see, then we'll move to the next method, right? So I'm going to use doc type HTML, and I hope you remember this part. So this will indicate that the start of HTML. Within that, I told you we have two parts. We have head and then and we have body, right? Okay, so simply we are going to look at events in JavaScript. So let me put this as a title. And within the body, I will have each one. Let me say, okay, JavaScript events. So we'll take JavaScript. Right. So this part you already know. Right. Let me save it. Let me save. And remember, when you're saving, make sure that uh, we'll say js1.html. So just to say JavaScript one. Right now, let me run this. So I'm going to open up. Let me put this. Right. Now let me open up this where I have saved. Then double click and open up how it look like. Right now we have two windows. So I hope you can see here, right? So if you notice, so this is the title, events in JavaScript, and this is the header one. Right, now I'm going to show you the first part, right? So in the first part, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write down something here, right? But before that, we need to understand one thing. What we need to understand is how are we going to use this information, meaning like we are going to um, create. First of all, we need to create. We need to first create a function for this, right? So that means in this part, in the body, we are going to say on click, right? And then we are going to include a function name. So I'm going to say my function, right? So, but if you run this, I'm going to say file save. And if you run this, if you click it, you don't see anything here. This is because I have not written down the script here, right? So now I'm going to write down. Remember that when you're writing down, you write down at the end of the body. Usually this is the place where we will write the script. So I will write the script. So I'll say script slash script, right? And then I will write down a simple function. So let me say, I can write anything here. So therefore I will say function, my function, right? And this is the end. So whatever you want to execute within this, you can see. So remember, we discussed various ways. We can use console log. So that is what is recommended. But just to show you, I will use alert, right? I will say, okay, hello from my function. So simple dialog box which will pop up, right? So simple idea we did. What is the idea we did? Okay, repeat. So this is the simple script I have developed. And inside the body, we can see the attribute on click, and then we put this function. So what happens when you save it? Let me save and refresh it, right? And if you click it, remember, you have to click. I'm going to click it. So when you click, you should get it. Like, I think I forgot the semicolon here. Let me save it again. Refresh, click it. Okay, so not the semicolon, the problem, but the CR. Okay, so now I saved it, refresh it, click it. Okay, let me one more. So what are the issues we have? Function, my function, okay. That is also okay. Okay, so in this particular case, so we have, what we did is we included an event. When you click on the body text, it should execute my function, the JavaScript function. And what it does, simply come up with a dialog box with the message hello from my function. So let's save it, refresh it, and when you click it, yes, now you have observed that you'll get the pop-up window with hello from my function. Right. This is one way to do this. I think there was a question of where to, use the script. I think I have discussed in the very beginning what are the best places you put this. So yes, you can type it, but they are recommended that where you should to actually type this. Ideally, you can actually use it as an external script. So that's another way to do. This is actually clear for the demonstration purpose where I can have everything in one code. Right. With that said, let me move to the next one. Right. So we have discussed how to represent this as a HTML attribute. So then the second one as a method attached directly to an element. So let's see how to do that as well. So as an attribute element, we have demonstrated this, how to do this as a part of the body element, meaning the attribute. The second one is we can build in as a method. We can create within this, and this will, directly work on this. So ideally, as I told you earlier, my expectation was in earlier as well. You click it on where or anywhere in the browser, and it should work on this, right? So let's try that one now. So to do this one, what I'm trying to do this time is I'm going to slightly update, modify this one. So therefore, I'm going to save it differently. So please observe what I'm actually doing into the code. I'm going to update this. But before that, let me share with my previous code. So I'm going to share with you the previous code. Right. Now let me save this first as a separate file so that I have like two files, right? So I'm going to say JavaScript 2. I will say JS2 HTML. I'm going to demonstrate the second technique, which is I'm going to call it as a method. So when I actually want to call it as a method, so simply I'm not going to use this part, make a note of this. I will have body only, right? So I'm not going to have included anything within the HTML, but within the script, you can see after this, hello from my function, this is the function definition. So I will type it like this. It's window, which refers the browser. And then when you on click is the method, the event. And then simply I will say, okay, what needs to be executed. So it's my function. So let me save again. And okay, I totally forgot to share my code. So this is what I want to share. Right. So the right now, the changes I have done, I have removed the on click from here. So I will have body part. And then I have included the window dot on click. And then I said my function. So this is the second technique. So let me open up the file for you. Okay, so here is the file now, which yes, JS2. Now you notice whenever I click anywhere, it will work, right? Let me close, click anywhere. not only the text. So you can see that is what I actually wanted to do from the beginning. So you click anywhere, which will execute my function. So observe the difference between these two implementations. I will share with you the code again in the chat, right? We have used the second technique. What was the second technique? Yes, we implemented this as a method. So several ways I told you event handlers as HTML attribute. That's what we did in the first case. The second one, we selected as a method attached to the element. So in this case, we put up it inside the script itself. Right. Same thing I'm going to do, but I'm going to save it as a different file name so that you have all the three versions. Okay, I'm going to say this is number 3. In this particular case, what I want to show you is use of add event listener, right? This is common way of using instead of directly use on click here. Again, these are like different ways of using the same thing. So therefore, what I'm going to do, I'm going to update the code here instead of this part. Okay, actually, we need to update this part. So I'm going to use type like this. It should type like exactly as it is. We say event list. No? So in this particular case, we are going to say like what events you are going to see. Earlier we said on click. So remove on part and type the remaining. In this particular case, it's click. So simply this will look at the click event. And if the click event is there, then you have the results. What needs to be done? In this particular case, I want to call my function. And this is how we will write this down. So very simple idea. We are, instead of just directly use on click, we are using at event listener method. Within that, we type whatever the action. If it is click, we type click. Remember earlier we had on click with on. You don't have to have on. All the events I have showed you earlier, you can use it. And the second part would be what needs to be executed. We say, okay, execute my function. That's the simply idea. Let me save it. Right, now let me double click on the page number 3. So here we will have page number 3 here, right? Okay, so here is what we have. Click it. Okay, you have the same output. Right. So now I hope you got all the 3 ways of, right, handling, working on the events, right? Right. So we have done only the click events, but there are many others. So you can use any of this, although we said on click, the mouse click event development, you can use any of these to, work on interactively in a web page. So we work on the click event, and what we have observed is 3 ways of, working on, detecting the mouse click and then do something. Simple task we did is we executed a very small thing. Whenever you create anywhere in the browser, then we ran a function called my function. That's what we did. Right. Let's move on something very interesting. So the next part that I want to discuss is how you can use these ideas with simple form handling, right? So in this particular case, one of the most common uses of JavaScript is check when user interact with the forms. Ideally, whether particular user has entered the data correctly. It's very, very important task, and this is what we can do. So whenever user interact with the form, we can check first of all whether they have entered anything, whether whatever entered the information, whether you have the correct length. Now, for example, passwords. We know that some of the websites you have to type at least 8 characters. You can check the length, right? And sometimes you need to check, like for example, let's say you have sometimes passcodes, right? You have to type exactly like this. So that means the second point, whether they have typed in exact matching information, right? Then sometimes you can check for particular symbol. For example, the simple way of validating an email is you can check whether the @ symbol is included. It's a very simple one. That's not exactly how you validate, but the simple validation could be like simple as that, right? The last one is like you can check whether the user has actually selected anything. When you have radio buttons, which means that you can actually select one option. The second one is whether sometimes you have check boxes like square shaped ones where you can select multiple values. So depending on which one user select, we can work on this, right? So these checks usually perform when you're working on the form, and there are many ways of working in it. But I'm going to show you very brief how you can accomplish very simple form checks, right? So let's start. The first one, we can check for emptiness. So whenever you have a text box in a web page, and you can check whether something has entered. If it is not, we can show a simple error message. So let's do uh, this addition to a form. So let's create a simple form. Let's have just one text box to add name, and let's see how we can work on it, right? Are we ready? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. Let me share the same. So here is what we have right now. We have a notepad and this. So I'm sharing the two. Right. So to do this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new one. So I will create a new notebook. And you know how to create a form. I think we have done this early, right? Creating simple forms we discussed, right? Yes. So shall we start? Maybe I can copy paste the same, but I don't need everything. Right. What I am going to do is I'm going to, for the time being, I'm going to keep only this. And then maybe I will have validate, say, form validation. Right. Okay, good. So right now we don't have anything. So we have this. So let me say this is my JavaScript form. Save. So I'm going to say JSOHT. Right. Let me double click on it. Right. You observe now I don't have anything here. So simply I'm going to create a simple form. So let's create a simple form. So I will just say form and form. nothing else, right? And then I can have a very simple input. I will say type equals text, simple input box, and let me save, refresh. Okay, you can see just a simple text box. Right. Maybe I can increase the size here as well. Okay, so this is what I have right now. Okay. Now, a few things, of course, you need to users, we need what to put. Maybe I can use label for this. Okay, what I need from the user is typing a name. Let's put a label. So let me save it. Let me refresh it. Okay, now you can see name here as well. Good. So another thing that I'm going to do is whenever you use it, now you know that we need to, handle things here. So therefore, we need a way of referring to this. So it's always we need to identify. For that, we need to use a ID. So anytime when you want to, do this, you better use an ID here. So therefore, for the text box, right, I just have created, I put ID name, right? So up to now, I hope it's clear to you. Right. Now what I'm going to do is one simple task. What is the simple task? Whenever I am going to leave out of from this place, right, I want to validate it. So let's create a function in JavaScript. Whenever I'm trying to leave this place, let's check, right? So the event for going out of focus is called on blur. So that means it's lost focus. And the function name that I'm going to have it is called validate. I'm going to say validate, right, name. So I'm going to create, I have not created the function name yet. So, but I'm going to say, okay, validate name. This is the function that I'm planning to execute. So what it means, now I have to write down this, right? Isn't it? So therefore, so this is what I have right now in the form. So I'm going to write the script for this. So I'm going to write script. So in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, write a function. So I will say it's called function validate name. And then within that, what I want to do. Okay. So I need your attention for this because we have not discussed this. It will come in the note, but this is the first time you're going to observe, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I want to check the length of the string the user entered. So that's what we need. Okay, this is how we are going to get this in the JavaScript. So I'm going to have a selection statement if, okay, I will explain. Get element by ID. Okay, so this method is used to get elements in the document by its ID. Remember, I told you the importance of ID here. I said ID is name. So what this part means, we are going to get the ID name, right? So in this particular case, we are referring in this text box, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, I need the value. Whatever user enters, it will come back here. Whatever user enters, right? And then what I'm going to do is I will check the length. I will say, okay, value dot length. So right now what I'm saying is, okay, you go to that text box, check the value, get the length. And if it is less than 1, you know what it means. You don't have any value, right? Simply, I'm going to say, okay, alert, the name, I will say name cannot be empty. A simple box will pop up and say, okay, you cannot have an empty box. So let me show you how it works. Let me save and let me refresh. Nothing will happen. Okay, you have to first go up to this place and trying to move away. Okay, then it says, okay, name cannot be empty. Okay, type something. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, Sampath. And if you try to go away, nothing will happen, right? But as soon as if it is empty, if you try to focus away, okay, you are getting the error message, right? I hope you are clear about what we did. So in this way, what we have discussed is how to check whether in a form, right? We are checking whether whatever user enters, and we are making sure that it cannot make it empty, right? Sometimes if it is empty, we are not allowed to move to the next step, right? And that's exactly what we are trying to mimic here. Right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another form element. Okay, so we have now two elements we are going to have. So therefore, I would like to use div element so that we can separate them. So I will say div and slash div. Actually, you should use style to separate them nicely, have nice spaces. I'm actually not focusing for the time being, but let me use, another text box. So this time I'm going to create something called class code. Sometimes when you are asked to enroll into classes, sessions, you will ask to exactly type something, right? So, and in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually checking what user input, and it should be exactly same to what I need. Otherwise, I will give you an error message or I will put a message. So this time I'm going to say a different ID for this part. I will say class code, because with this now know how to use them. And on blur, I'm going to execute validate class code. Right. I hope you now got it. What exactly want to do with this? Right. Okay, this part is clear, I hope now, since we have already done. So only thing is now I want to create another function for this. So I'm going to expand the same script file. I'm going to create a function, validate class code, right? And the first part will be the same as earlier. I'm going to get the element first. So I will say document dot get element by ID. The ID we have used is called class code. And then, okay, I'm going to check the value, right? And then I will say whatever the value I want to check, right? So remember that. So let's say I want to check whether user has entered ABC 1, 2, 3, right? And then if that is the case, now, okay, I'm going to switch this. Okay, this time I'm checking the equality, not the inequality. I'm checking because users can type anything there. So not equal, if you want, you can put a not equal here. So let me check. I'm going to put a message if they have correctly typed it, right? You got my point, huh? Okay. So therefore, so let me say, I'm going to say, okay, alert. Okay, you have entered the correct class code. I know this is other way around, but I want to try out in both directions. Right. So let me save it first. File save. Let me refresh. Okay, now you can see I have two text boxes here. So I can type something. Okay, let me say Sampath. So I'm not getting anything here, but I can type anything. So nothing will happen right now. But as soon as you type A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, okay, then it says, okay, you have entered the correct class code. Basically, when you check this. But one of the issues for this with is, so remember that how it works is you come to this place and when you leave, only it will check. Because we said on blur. On blur means you lost focus. Lost focus means you there and you move. So for example, if you are here and if you move it, okay, now cannot be empty. So now I have a little bit problem. Now it will not allow me to change anything because right now it will run. So let me start from the beginning. Okay, now I have to start from the beginning. You might have observed what has happened, right? So let me say Sampath and then let's say ABC 1, 2, 3. What happens? Now you don't see anything because class code, it doesn't match it to this. But of course, let's say that if you want to allow this one as well, make it another one. You can see to lower case. So what happens with this one? Even with this is considered. So let me save it. Save it. Let me refresh it again. Refresh it. Okay. Let me put Sampath. And of course, ABC 1, 2, 3 is correct. If you lost focus, yes, you have entered the correct class. But if you put like ABC 1, 2, 3, it is also considered correct because you are converting it to lowercase. Right. Now I'm going to share the code, but this time I will share separately this one and then only the JavaScript code. Okay, so let's update the code, slightly modify so that what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you in this particular case how to check the validity of an email. Actually, this is not comprehensively you check the pattern, email pattern, but simply we will check whether the @ symbol is there. This is a simple check. You can actually check for more advanced way of detecting email addresses. So I hope you understand this. So therefore, what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to slightly modify everything from the beginning. So please go through with me and try to understand the use of this. I'm going to have some style sheet as well so that you are comfortable with how to make use of them, right? Right, let me start. Okay, so we are going to do update the code. So therefore, I'm going to save it as a different name. So let me save as JavaScript 5, right? I'm going to say JavaScript 5, and then I'm going to add some modification to this. The first modification to this is I'm going to make some error messages, right? Now, remember, instead of alert box, I want to have some text along with the text block. So this is how you normally see in email validations. So to do that, I'm going to add something new here after name, right? I'm going to add a span. Spans, I hope you remember, right? Because I'm trying to add some information here. You got my point? I'm going to add some information here. When there's an error, right? So that's what we are going to do. So the first case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it like it earlier. I'm going to say ID whenever there's an error. So therefore, I will say error message. So meaning that I will say name error. So what I'm trying to do here is whenever, the name is empty, I will put the message here instead of somewhere else, right? You got my point, right? So now I have to update this space because right now what we are trying to do here is slightly, I'm going to modify the content, right? So when you want to modify the content, right, instead of alert box, this message we are going to write down. So it's same as earlier. So instead of saying document.getElement by ID, we will use the same thing, right? I'm going to just copy paste here, right? I will say here, if the name length is less than 1, right? Okay, get this place. We have name error. So I will say name error, right? That part we are clear, right? Name error. And then the text content, right, should be equal to this. What is it? Name cannot be empty. That's all. Very simple idea we implemented. See whether you understand this. What we did, okay, I'm going to save it again, right? JavaScript 5. Okay, so we have added the span here and we name it as a name error. And then within, instead of alert, I told you alert is not recommended. We actually change the text content of this to name cannot be empty. So this piece of text will be there. Simple as that. Right. So let's observe this. Let me save and let me rerun. Okay, I have JavaScript 5. Okay, this is what I have right now. Right. So here is what I have. So I have the name and then we have class code here. So you can see as soon as I come from here, so name cannot be empty. So you got the message, right? I will rerun. So if I type, so you can know when you move it, so it says a message, name cannot be empty. This is good. I mean, like you can notice, but whenever you make the change, even if you type it, the message is there, right? Message is there. So that we can change slightly because, right, this is if, okay, we can put the else part as well. So I will actually modify this else I'm going to have the another statement. If you have a else part, then it's empty. So now let me save it. Let me refresh it. Okay, you move here. Okay, it says name cannot be empty. As soon as I type something, some path, and try to move away, okay, now it's not empty. You see, this is exactly the same behavior what you notice when you send a form, right? I hope you observe this. Similarly, we can do the same for the class code as well. So let me update the same. But by the way, before that, we have to add a span there as well. So what I'm going to do is I will include another span here, right? And then we will say, okay, ID. In this case, it's not an error, so it's just a message. So I will say, okay, class code message in short, right? Simple as that. Right. Now that I have included this piece here, right? Now I'm going to modify from here. So if it is here, right, now this is the other way around. If you have a value, if it is correct, right, what we are trying to do here is, okay, similar to this document.get element by we have class code message. I will say class code message, right? If it is equal to this one, okay, then I will say equals you have entered the correct code. Okay, simple idea we implemented. Let me refresh now and let's observe how it works. So we have name. Okay, it's okay. Then let's say A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. So as soon as I go there, okay, class message code. Okay, it should be dot text. Sorry, text content. So let me save again. Let me refresh. Okay, let me try to move. Okay, you can go up and then we'll say name, come back here. So ABC 1, 2, 3. Let me check one more time. So what was the error? So we have document ID class code span. This is also okay. Right. And then validate class code value. And then here we have document got element by ID class code message dot text content. You have the correct code. Let me say one more time. Is it? Yes, 5. Refresh it. Right. Let me see some part. Okay. Yeah, there was error here that I have type 2 equal signs. So let me save it. Let me refresh it. Okay, so we have some part A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can see here, you have entered the correct class code. If I done it correctly, right? If you have something else, okay, what happens, right? That also we can implement. So then we can have else part. If you have, right, not the value, then we'll make it empty, opposite. So let me save, refresh it now. Okay. If it is empty, we are getting an error. Code A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you are getting the correct code. Let me put sample. Okay, so that is there. Okay, let me try something else. Okay, no message. Is it working for capital now? Of course, it's working. So now you observe that the simple idea of when you're making a form submission, how do you handle the error messages or the whatever the messages? Right. So in this part, I'm going to have email. So you know how it works. So let me add this now. So you can see. Right. I'll copy pasted some. So here the label is email address, type, ID is email, on birth. We have validate email. and then span ID, email error. Okay, so I have class. I will explain what this class is. Basically, this is for styling. So we know that this is an error message, and then we want to make it to a red color. So I'm going to actually define this. So let me put down this in the styles part. So we say class error. So for the same thing, I will update here as well. I will say class error, right? Okay, so now we are going to write some style under the head. Usually this is a place. We will say style / style, right? So under the style, what we are going to do is we are going to make it a error message. So it's a class, right? So I will say error, and then what I simply want to do is I want to make sure the color is in red color, right? So let me save. That's all. So now that is one thing we did. I have not written the validate email, but let me show you how it works for the time being in red color. Name, let's go there. Now you can see it's a name cannot be empty. Email side, we have not written anything here, right? Okay. You go, you know now how it works, why it is got red color. Okay, now let me explain the function for validating the email. So I will write the code here. So I will say, again, copy paste this one from my code and let me explain. Okay, so what are we doing here? So we are writing a function called function validate email. And what we do here is we are going to get the email valid so that we know. So in this part, what we do, whatever the user enters here, we capture it and check what we are doing here. We check the index of the @ symbol. What happens here is, right, we are looking at exactly where the @ symbol is. Actually, we are checking the index. So index indicates the location of the string, or in this particular case, location of the @ symbol. And if it is equal to -1, meaning that the character @ is not there. If the character is not there, then what we do, we will, print a message, invalid email address. If it is a correct one, then it make it empty. So let me save and then let me show you how it works. So in this particular case, yes, we save it, we refresh it. Okay, now I can type Sampath ABC123. Okay, we have correctly entered the code in black color in this particular case. Email address, I will say Sampath. And if I try to move away, it says invalid email address. I have to have add, let me add my email address. Right. And then we can move away. So then you don't have any error here. So if you try to make it empty, yes, name cannot be empty. So I hope now you understood how exactly this works. Right. Few things I want to share with you. I don't think I can share you everything. Let me see. So basically what we have discussed in part, how to perform simple form validation. And we discuss simple ways of checking this, some of the ideas I have discussed with you as well. Right. So I want to discuss the last part of this, which is how to update things within the HTML structure. So in this particular case, the first thing that you need to understand is how our structure of the code is represented as a node tree, right? So this is called document object model, how to manipulate content in a document. So it's very interesting to understand how HTML especially structure the pages. So we already know that starting from this, we have HTML, and then within the HTML, we have two parts, head and body. So if you closely look at within the head, we have title and meta information. So this is also indicated here. Similarly, if you go inside the body, you can see there are two divs here. You can see two divs. The first one, you can observe, we have a head and a paragraph. So within this, we have a head, H1, and a paragraph. The second one, we just have a paragraph. And if you go inside the first div and under the paragraph, you have a anchor, a link as well. So you can see that if you are looking at in a tree structure like this, it's very easy for us to manipulate things. Now, this is what we use as interacting with the pages, updates, changes, right? So I will briefly discuss how this can be done. But I think the extensive discussion we discuss in our next course, that is 509, right? We are in the web development. I'll talk about in detail this, but for the completeness of the first part, we'll go through that, how we can make some changes or node changes. So that means if you know how to manipulate the node tree, the tree structure, you can change things, you can modify things, you can delete things. So you can have more interactivity in the web pages. And this is the possibility, or this is how the JavaScript actually handled this. So now in previous one, we didn't have a lot of information there, but you can, if you want, like make any changes to the text, the links, even the pictures, you can handle the way you want. So sometimes you see like a lot of interactivity, you can see image roles. So everything is created using these ideas by manipulating the nodes in the tree structure, right? And then how to do this is simply accessing each of these nodes. So if you know how to access nodes in a document, this can be done. We already discussed one way. One way is you can use the ID. So remember we discussed document.getElement by ID beginner. And then whatever the text available, you can get it through inner HTML. So that means whatever inside the beginner, you can get the HTML content and you can actually make some changes. So in this particular case, what it does, basically it will get it, save it as a constant value, and later on you can make any changes to this. So here's the example. It says retrieve the HTML content, the element with an ID beginner, and stores in a variable, right? So if it is let's say a paragraph, whatever inside the paragraph, you can have a lot of things, right? Inside the paragraph, and then we can say it's a in this particular case, we save it as a foo, and you can use it later on, right? So here are like this. There are many ways to accessing. What we have discussed in the practicals is only the accessing element using the ID. So in our email validation example, what we have did is we simply use the ID element to access everything. But there are many others. For example, you can retrieve things with the tag name itself. Meaning that in this particular case, if you say get element by tag name, if you say P, that means you can retrieve elements with paragraph. P stands for paragraphs. So this returns every paragraph on the page, right? So you got this one. So you can get this information, right? Similarly, you can again element information ID attribute. So in this particular case, we have an image, you know, that source, we have a JPG file, alternate text, and we have ID. So in this statement, but basically what happens, you are actually getting this element, right? So this element, right, with its name. Now the importance of this, when you received it, you can get other information. So when you use this information, this refers the entire thing. So if you want to get the name of the file, right, you can say .src and you can access this information. And you can change it if you want. Right. More methods. You can get element by class name. If you are giving class information, you can use that. Especially class information we use with the CSS. We can use that to get the information. For example, you can say query select all, retrieve node using CSS selectors. We discussed those ideas earlier. You can select child elements, query all dot sidebar dot p, or you can get select element by the attributes, select all input type text. So if you have a type text in input, you can retrieve all, get attribute, retrieve value of attribute of an element. For example, in this particular case, we have an image, right? And then you can notice that, okay, we are getting document get element by lead image. So you will get this information. And then if you want to get this get attribute, SRC, and this is what I mentioned earlier, you can actually get this image information. So in this way, you can particularly get a particular image information. So what you need to understand is, so we have methods to access information in a web page, right? So there are various ways, as you observe right now. We can use the ID, that is the straightforward one, and this is what we have discussed. But you can use tags, right? That means the element itself. Then you can use CSS styles. Through that, you can access various ways that you can actually access information. Then, if you want to change this, you can use set. So in previous one, we get the information. And in this particular case, right, we set the information. You can change it. So which means if you have a web page, you have an image. And let's say we can have a button. When you click the button, you can change the image. So this is how you can actually make some interactive pages. Then you can change the text or markups. For example, we can get the particular information and you can actually add something new. So you can change the text using inner HTML. So simply you can access particular item and then you can make an addition here. So in this case, we are going to have a introduction, intro text. So that's the beginning. You can modify style sheets, right? For example, you can make some changes to color information. So what I mean by this is, let's say you have some colors already in your web page and you can change through the JavaScript. So in this particular case, it will show you how to change the color, background color as well as foreground color. So this is what you normally see, dark backgrounds. Sometimes you switch, background is white, the color of the text is black, right? And then you can go with dark mode. I don't know whether you have noticed this. When you select the dark mode, what happens? The background will be black and the text will be white. Simple function we can use to do this. Similar to that, you can actually change the content in the page. You can create new elements, you can change elements, you can remove elements. So in this particular case, we discussed there are methods like create element. You can create a new element. So in this particular case, it will create a div element within the web page. Then once you create, you can add something inside this. So that means you can add children, insert within this. So depend on what you want to do, you can decide how to add something inside this. This is also possible. You can decide on where to add. For example, insert before means you can decide where to insert. You can say that, okay, insert before this, right? So you already have some heading. Okay, you can change that. You can add something new heading. This is possible. You can change something inside this. In this particular case, we are actually change the image. We will have a existing image and you are changing to a new image. So the method we use is replace child. And even you can remove them, right? So you can remove them. So that's what we will notice that. So going back to the notes, what I actually explained in brief, we didn't have time to go